The very beginning was our discussion in the organizational agility competency, where we were talking about lean thinking people and agile teams. The core of this dimension is really a kind of 1, 2, 3 graphic that starts with being agile. Step 1, know your value stream. Step 2, and then specialize principles and practices. Step 3.
We have for understanding also a term called begreifen. Begreifen has also a word which means greifen, and this is touching, grabbing. So if you want to understand something, you need to touch it. It's not only reading and talking, it's also playing around.
After each lesson in a course, I ask people again, go back to your challenge, to your pain point. What kind of principle, what part of the teaching is now covering something of your actual situation? I love the CDP. It's not a technical thing. It's really your delivery pipeline as an enterprise. And it adheres even to business.
Maybe I can add something as an advice for the SPCs who are trainers. Sometimes what I see when I co-pair or co-train with young SPCs who want to just not do it alone, they always want to skip the last exercise in every section, which is reflect. Make a
Yep.
pause, think about, because yeah, it's 5 minutes and I don't know how to debrief it. Let's skip it. And I think it's not the best idea. If you have business people in it, they need this time. Also, technology people need this time, but business people, because it's new to them, they need more time to think, how can I connect it to my experience?
When you start coaching a team that has maybe no technical people in it, or maybe half and half technical and non-technical people, and you start to think about the practices that, let's say I'm an HR team, what does a splitting of a story look like? And you've got to, again, bring these practices to life for people doing jobs that aren't building software. You've got to go back to principles to specialize the practices.
And head of HR said, okay, how can we solve that? And we did a virtual Gemba and we did a physical Gemba, and we just listened. And that's how we started training. That's how we started first PI planning. And we had this kind of mantra. We always were asking each other, is it helpful for the value stream we are supporting? That kept us on track.
The one that always stands in my head was the policy department. This was the area where, when the government was considering a change of policy or change of legislation, they would go to these guys and say, what's the impact if we change the legislation like this? And they're like, we want to be agile. We want to be an art. It's like, not quite sure on art, but let's help you start using some of the agile stuff, because what they really loved when they worked with our arts was looking at the culture. So we made up a little 1-day introduction to agile course. Let's teach you some fun foundations. The one that always resonated most was the marshmallow game. We would play the marshmallow game because, of course, that's got this wonderful learning about experimentation and integration in a very relatable concept. Getting just that, let's experiment, let's try things out, and let's learn fast, just worked everywhere.
I think a good SPC has to be a coach too. Best a systemic coach, but a coach too, because you have to use the language of the people who have to become agile, because agile isn't the goal. Remember what Stefan said? It's not the goal, be agile. It's using the agile things to become faster, to become better, to have a better user feedback. They have their own vocabulary. As an SPC, you have to master this discipline in connecting the worlds of and the languages of the people.
When you're helping a group of non-technical people start to wrap their head around this stuff, the more you go back to principle and have a discussion that says, here's how we build it, bring it to life in your specific context and skill set, the better it's going to be.
And I was shocked because, and I remember I went to Rebecca during the masterclass in January to the version 6 and told her, but every art should be business enabled. Why it's now a pattern? And she told me, yeah, it would be nice, but the real world is saying something else, and we want to emphasize it again. I started my career with Agile and coaching with coaching teams, dev teams. And now I'm coaching executives doing the same thing as before with a different vocabulary, with different people, but still it's the same job. And what I really love when you have C-level people or people from business or executive business team is how they appreciate and embrace this culture with experience and with learning.
What I've seen as well in an insurance, that finally the executive team said, okay, let's get a kind of agile coach in who serves as a team coach. And during the executive team meetings or even extended executive team meeting, they had clear rules and it felt like a scrum team. What's the focus today? Who's talking what? And it wasn't about status and progress. It was about, okay, what's the focus now for the next iteration, whatever you call it? And it changed. And also this agile coach was allowed to say, hey, dear CEO, your 3 minutes are over. We're moving to the next C level.
I would say for me, the number one tip if you're coaching an agile executive team is you need facilitation skills. It's not about stand-ups or retrospectives or anything else. It's about being able to facilitate that group of people having better conversations.